What's up, everybody? Good evening. Happy Thursday. Welcome to Hoops Hobby Hangout. This is our 13th time getting together and hanging out. Hope happy for those of you who join us tonight. This is a good week for what you can hear is my voice struggling and kind of hanging on its last limb because I have very little knowledge about the topic for today, which is 1948 Bowman, the first, and please correct me if I'm saying anything wrong, the first full pro basketball set. I'm really excited to hear what everyone has to share, see the cards. Obviously, it's a set that I think on some level we're all somewhat familiar with, but it's going to be exciting to nerd out on a set. And I guess there's no better set to do that with than the first set. So, Ryan, was it last week you were out?
Yeah, just making my way back this week.
Yeah, wow, that feels like a long time ago. Ryan is back with us, thankfully, and Adam is here, and Steve. I'm Joey. I don't know if I mentioned that. So yes, excited to hang out and talk cards. Anyone have any exciting life or hobby things that happened in the last week?
Yeah, I can jump in. I didn't even say this in the group chat, Joey, but actually, first of all, I'll start off with the mail day I got. I got a King's card in the mail.
Yes,
So I
I
got
saw that.
this is the camera's not going to show it well. You don't even need to zoom in, but I got the True
I got
Gold
you.
Optic Hollow for Jay Crowder. So for 24-25. So
Nice.
as much as I'm sick of chasing the multiple parallels, getting the True Golds, I actually grab having the way the green out of 5 coming too. We've talked about how much many of us like Optic, and for anybody that hasn't seen yet, I'll give the Golds, their final. This might be their final True Gold, Hollow or Prism card. They did a decent job with the gold. Is actually like a true gold color. It's not orangey. The shine's a little bit lacking, but nice looking card. So I was really happy to get that. I think he played all of like 12 games for the Kings, but Kings legend.
I think was it 12? I thought it was 9.
They said he got 2 starts. That's all I know. He started
Yeah,
2 games in December and then somehow got a full contract out of it. And then I actually last weekend got to get out to a show for a little bit. It's been a while since I got to a show. There was a 230 to 250 table show in my area. So I got out to that, took the kids up for a little bit. I got some really nice PC cards, most of them football that I picked up or Marvel. Only basketball card I got was my daughter picked up this it's an orange velocity prism, WNBA prism of her favorite player, Dejanay Carrington, one of my favorite players too. But again, the camera's not connecting with it. But what I really like about this set is as we've talked about, I really like Optic, and Optic historically has had those velocities. The black velocities out of 39, orange velocities maybe, but they've had the pink velocities out of 79, and they've been really Optic heavy. They did them in Prism this year, and I have to say I wish NBA Prism brought the velocities in for a year. They look awesome with like the Prism borders and that velocity background, sort of sparkling in the background. So it was a good show. I think we get anybody out there that's in other parts of the country. There's a lot of kickback about there's too much TCG or Pokemon at their shows. I think we have a healthier distance between the TCG stuff in the Boston area, but what we get a lot of is crusty old showcases full of like 1960s baseball and hockey that are banded together with elastic. So showcases can be, certain parts of the building slim pickings, but it's a well done show. It was a good show. So I was glad to be able to get out there with the kids. I was only there for a few hours, but lots of good stuff to sort through and a wide variety. So that was a nice, fun change of pace for me with the hobby.
that's awesome. And can you remind me how old your kids are?
I have a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old, so third in kindergarten.
So what's your advice on the age at which it becomes enjoyable to take your kids to a show?
It's interesting because my daughter, who's the older one, she's more of a people person, so she loves to come with me to like the small local show where like I know a few more people. Maybe I'll set up occasionally, or I'll go sit behind a table with a few friends. She loves to come and like help me set up. She likes to count the money as I'm selling stuff, and I don't set up that often. At this point, it's like once a year. But she loves those smaller shows and more of the interactive side of it. My son loved this bigger show. He went through and he was asking Dad, like, where are the Pokemon cards? Dad, where are the Marvel cards? Where are the Celtics cards? And but he's got that collector gene, and Ryan knows this because I'll share some stuff with him in another chat. He definitely loves collecting Lego and organizing, or he'll collect coins and organizing cards and last night I turned around while I was making dinner, and he's just throwing Pokemon cards into a binder and like locked in on it. So even though he's younger, he enjoys the looking at the stuff and kind of getting a sense of what he likes. Whereas my daughter wants to be more there for like the people and the interactions and stuff. So I think it really depends on your kids. I've been bringing my daughter to shows since she was 5. But definitely likes the smaller shows better. Where my son, I think, is going to be more of like the collector, and at 6 years old, he's tall enough to see over the tables now and can kind of flip through some binders and stuff. So I think it really depends on your kids and your style. The downside to it, Joey, was I couldn't like really dig into stuff, right? So I was able to like skim through showcases, and like when I wanted to make a deal for a slightly bigger card, which for me is like $200. I had to like make sure I knew where they were, make sure they weren't pushing on the showcases, but I didn't have time to like flip through like $5 boxes or $10 boxes or anything. So it's a give and take, but it was a lot of fun.
That's what you miss out on, I think, at the shows with your kids. It's fun, but you're always like, where'd they go? Like, are they getting into trouble, or are they spending all the $30 that I gave them on some garbage? Yeah, but that's cool, man. Glad to hear they got to go out.
Yeah, I definitely took mine probably when they were too young. My daughter, maybe, I don't remember if it was my daughter or both my son and daughter, but I think my daughter was like 3 or something, and it was just not enjoyable at all. But that's a really young age. I get that. I don't know that I expect it anymore. But she's 5 now, so maybe we'll try it out again.
Can't do $1 digs with kids, that's for sure. They get super bored. Even if you're at a table for more than like 5 minutes, they're like, Dad, this is boring. Let's go. So,
yep.
I do have a pick up the sheriff if I can go next. Pretty cool one for the Harris PC. I did share that logo man that I got. What was it? 2 episodes back. The one that I was, before I was out. And this is his NTRPA. But what's special about this one? See if we can even get it to show up. It's the out of 5 with the hollow foil. So in that 14-15 season, National Treasures, the only ones that were actually hollow foil were the out of 5. And so I got this from that same guy, Zach, BDRR Sports Cards. And he hit me up like after I kind of had done the deal with the logo man. And he's like, hey, I got a bunch of other Gary Harris. And he had that one and a couple other really nice ones, like the horizontal out of 10. He had another copy of that. I got one back in the day. He had like an out of 25. So I just did a trade deal for all that stuff. And then I got Nuggets legend, Emmanuel Mudiay. If you guys remember him, I got a couple of his flawless patch cards.
What's that?
Are those both rookie cards? I see. They're both. So
yeah,
you can't go wrong with game worn rookie stuff. I think that's so few and far between.
I think I told you, Steve, it was like, why did I spend $80 on Emmanuel Mudiay? But those is probably the best cards he's got.
Valid question.
Yeah, I remember actually probably going after some of these ones, these exact cards, if not this exact card back in the day when they were like $100, $150 cards. So to win them for $26 or something was kind of fun. More nostalgic than anything, but I collect all Nuggets, so it's fun times.
Are you talking back in the days when the semi-hyped rookies, their RPAs from Flawless weren't like $1,000?
Yeah, exactly. That would be like, comparing a guy nowadays. I think Mudiay was drafted 7th, I want to say, in that 2015. That was the same draft class as Jokic, by the way. So I was actually probably paying 3 to 4 more times for Mudiay cards than I was for Jokic cards back then, which you go back in time, you'd flip the script and get every Jokic card you could think of, right? But, oh well, Yeah, that's my pickups of the week.
The platinum foil on a few of those is really nice. Like, those aren't even the out of 101 version. They're just like the out of 10 or the regular.
10,
yeah. This is out of 10. We'll do a nice picture for the video or the edited video, which, by the way, I forgot to do the one last week. So I did the podcast and then the video version. So people this week are going to get 2, edited or cleaned up audio plus some photos and stuff of the cards we're showing. 2 for 1 this week.
Sure, they'll be begging for more.
Unacceptable, Ryan.
Yeah, that's cool when the platinum is not on the out of 1 because it makes it more affordable.
Yeah, that's what they did. I don't know if they did that any other years rather than that 15, 16. Do you know, Steve? Did they do, or Adam, you might know, the platinum hollow foil that they did out of 10? Because yeah, a lot of those in later years I thought were 101s.
Yeah, I don't know about the platinum. Maybe they did it one other year and also had a hollow. I mean, they've had years where the hollow foil and flawless was superior to other years. But as far as doing that platinum one, it might have just been that 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know off the top of my head, but it's definitely an oddball move for them to make for sure.
I could be mistaken. I think it's just once, but they have, like as Steven mentioned, done the hollow foil on like the silver parallels instead of just the flat silver, or the hollow gold instead of the flat gold. That really does make them pop quite a bit of difference.
Yeah, because this is your flat gold. These are the out of 25.
5, okay.
Moved into the out of 10 spot, I think, in later years. But
yeah,
it's a lot better than the black foil of 14, 15, if you know those. They're literally just blackout foil. You couldn't even read the team logo or anything.
So is there a 101 for that year?
101 for the 15, 16? Yes, I do believe so. I don't know what the foil was, though.
Is that the same year as black, or no?
Black was definitely in 14, 15 because I got a bunch of Gary Harris stuff that has that black foil. I don't know about 15, 16.
14, 15 is the one I just found recently, just for the purposes of the black.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, the blackout foil.
I'll look for it. I'll find it sometime in the next couple minutes. Oh, hi. Cool. I have something to share too. It's just one card, very minor, nothing that exciting, but I like, as you know, anytime to add to my laser collection, and anytime the photo on the laser is really nice, I like to add to it. So this is probably Domantas Sabonis' best year in terms of the photo on his Donruss. So this is the blue foil out of 49. So great shot. I love the design from 24-25. So
yeah,
like a no-brainer for me to add any of his cards from his lasers from this year.
Great little color match going on there too.
Yeah,
I like that.
How do you store those, Joe? Do you keep them on like a binder page together, or do you just keep them in like top loaders? How are you keeping your lasers? Or are they just
all in binders by year. So yeah, all in binders by year. And it doesn't matter. I mean, even my 101s, like I think my 101 is in just a standard binder page without a penny sleeve, without a top loader. Maybe it'd be different if it was valuable, but it's Harrison Bond, so I don't think anyone cares.
I love it.
Adam, you're going to be doing a lot, I'm sure, of talking today. You got anything for the week, or?
I already put away some things I picked up and foolishly forgot to grab them out. I did finish a ABA set. I can find just one quickly here, probably.
You finished the entire set? That's great.
Yeah, it's not a very large set. I just lost one. But this set here.
Oh, that's a cool set.
Yeah.
Nuggets coach legend George Karl.
You just random pull out of the box was the right one.
What product is that from, Adam?
National Treasures.
National Treasures.
Oh, nice. And then what team? I asked what team it was. He was on.
That one in particular. Let me go back to where it went.
Spurs, I think I saw.
Spurs, yep.
Oh, Spurs. Okay, yep.
Yeah, a lot of the players in that set have some strange not strange, but just defunct teams. They didn't just stick with like Spurs, Nuggets, stuff like that. They have some that are obviously Colonels, and like my favorite, different year, just to jump off base here, this is one of my favorite ones, Pittsburgh Pipers for Connie Hawkins. That's a different year of cool. ABA set from National Treasures. I just love the unique teams you don't see in other sets, and this will kind of have actually it's kind of funny how this worked out. This will have a kind of correlation to the set we're talking about tonight, 48 Bowman, ABA Caps, Rick Barry.
Rick Barry, yeah.
Nice.
So to kind of get right into it, Rick Barry's father-in-law played in the 40s and is in the 48 Bowman set, and is one of the players I grabbed out of the set I'm chasing.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, you organized your cards put away. I think that was a great transition because you said defunct teams, and we're going to jump into hearing, mainly from you, Adam, about 48 Bowman, but just to quickly sort of give a little, people to understand when 48 Bowman came out. The NBA didn't even exist in 48. NBA came around a year or so later. So we're talking about, I think, Adam, correct me if I'm wrong. So there were two primary professional leagues back then. the
Yep.
BAA and the NBL. I think all of 48 Bowman is BAA teams, right? And that's which would make sense. That was the more prestigious league. And then in 49, the NBL and the BAA merged to create the NBA. Right, so it's all BAA teams, and if you guys go to just the NBA wiki, there's links there to the BAA, the NBL. I forget exact. I think it's Basketball Association of America or National Basketball League, and there's some great history to dig down into the 30s and teams out of New York. And I had it pulled up. I wish I had it pulled up of the last NBL championship, and it was like the corn maze truckers of nowhere land type teams. So some interesting stuff to dig into. But I just thought it's good context to remind ourselves that the NBA didn't even exist back then. That's how old and I think significant some of these cards are.
Yeah, that was something I was going to kind of touch on as well, was just kind of the setting the time for the set. One thing I noticed earlier today when I was at work was today was James Naismith's birthday, which I thought was kind of funny. But obviously, I assume most people listening, if they care about us, care about basketball enough to know who that is, but the inventor of basketball. And he died in 1939, I saw from the post I seen. And just funny to think this is a handful of years after he passed away, before the NBA even exists, as Steve had mentioned. Most of the teams in this set, even though they were continued over in the merger, are now defunct. So like at this time, but many things are much different. There's no 24-second clock. You have a 6-foot wide lane for the paint. They got changed later for George Mikan. The only two teams that are really you would hear in this set and you would know from today are the Celtics and the Knicks. Everyone else has moved places multiple times, been defunct, out of the running. There's been teams that have kind of been brought back. Like one of the examples in this is like the Baltimore Bullets, or the Washington Capitals. There's been teams in those cities since then, but they're not the same history or the same lineage. There's just a lot of moving parts, if you will, from the history of what we know of the NBA today in this set, which is pretty unique. And being that it's the first set of pretty much everybody's a rookie, for almost every player in this set, it's their only card they've ever had as well. So there's just a lot of kind of uniqueness to it. Now, most of the names to the average person aren't going to be the biggest Michael Jordan, Dominique Wilkins, maybe appeal to 86 Fleer or some other things that come later, but there's definitely some cool history for somebody like me who likes that a lot. So, I mean, I think it's definitely pretty cool, but just kind of speak on what Steve was saying also with like the NBL championships. Mike had actually won one of those before even coming to the Lakers. And the Lakers are at one point as well were in the NBL. They were in the NBL the final year before the 48 set. But Mike and Bruce Hale, who ended up being the player I was mentioning, being Rick Barry's father-in-law, ended up winning a championship together. I think it was the Chicago American Gears was the name of the team, some ridiculous title. But that's Bruce Hale. He ended up later coaching for the University of Miami for Rick Barry, and then later after that coached in the ABA for Rick Barry, moved him out of the NBA and took him over to the ABA with his connection to him. But that's obviously the design of the set. It's predominantly square, just slightly off from being square. It's slightly taller than it is wide. But that's the design. You have two different colored backgrounds. Red, as you see here. Some other ones are blue. And as we get into it, there'll be some variations that we talk about. The set was made in 2 series, 1 through 36, and then 37 through 72. All the variations are found in the second series. The higher numbered cards are much more short printed, makes them a little bit tougher. And of course, that's where you find the mic, and that's the most sought after as well. But I feel like I'm just rambling here. If there's
I was going to say a couple things. If I could just jump in, Adam, just because I looked it up earlier. So the size of the cards, just for anyone that hasn't seen them, is 2 1/8 inches by 2.5 inches. So you're right, they're rectangular, but they're almost square, and they're just over 2 inches, either way. So they're much different shape than we're traditionally used to.
Definitely a lot different, but if you're familiar with the baseball sets, or those who are listening or watching are, it's identical in the same, I think 48 and 49 are almost identical sets, shapes, designs, everything. And that's one thing, too, that makes the basketball sets, in my opinion, so much more cool. Not only were they printed at a much lower quantity than the baseball sets, but there isn't a year in, year out set option. So like you get into the 50s and you have 51 tops, you have 51 Bowman, you have 52 tops, you have 52 Bowman, and keep on having things like that over the years. After this 48 Bowman set, you have no sets until 57. So, like, as we talked about with like the teams and things like that, we have the Celtics and the Knicks who continue over to that set. You have the Minneapolis Lakers who are still around in that 57 set and haven't moved to LA. You have, I think the Rochester Royals are still in Rochester in 57, if I recall correctly. But then the Pistons move, and I think every other team in the league at that point has been completely out of the league by the time 57 comes around. So like this is almost like a time capsule of an era that you don't have in any other set in any other year, unlike baseball, where you're not going to have this much change from one set to the next. So it's pretty unique, I think.
For sure. And I think also like when I grabbed my first 57 or my first 48, I also thought of, not in a sentimental way, but like what was going on with my family at the time. Like how old was my mother? Like my mother was 4 years old when 57 Tops came out, right? And she wasn't alive when 48. And also thinking about the time with coming out of World War II and, the all the baby booming and everything. Like just it was just a different world. And just thinking about having something that, I collect because I'm a nerd about basketball that was, produced during that time when the country was in a much different space. And I just think there's a part of pop culture history too that and it was also like the infancy of professional basketball. We think of it as this global brand right now, but it was a much, much different experience back then. And all these guys were war veterans that worked 3 jobs, and every offseason they were, well, am I going to go back to playing professional basketball? Because the accounting firm down the street gave me a better contract and more days off, right? So it's kind of cool to think of that aspect of it. Did you hit on the printing errors in Series 2 yet, Adam?
I touched on it just briefly, saying that there was some uniqueness to those. Yeah, it is only in Series 2. Basically, the background colors.
Yeah, so
blue.
if you see this, Joey, so the background colors. So this is my only one left in my collection. This is Andy Phillip. This is a Chicago Stags card, but he's a Hall of Famer who won a championship with the Celtics in '57. But the background color, the what is put out there for us to consume now is that during part of Series 2 print run, they ran out of the colored ink, so they only had black and white left. So the red and the blue background on some of the Series 2 cards are a gray scale background. And those are they're. Adam doesn't pick them up. I haven't ever been tempted to pick them up either, but they are theoretically sort of like the first era cards for basketball, but they are a shorter printed series. You can almost picture like the factory's like, we're out of ink. I don't know. They ordered 100 sheets. We'll still give them 100 sheets and see if they say anything, right? It's a candy company wanting some cards. I don't know. So there are some out there that are all grayscale because they ran out of ink, which is just wild to think about.
So that's some copies of every card in the set.
Only Series 2. So there was Series 1 was 1 through 36, and then the second half, so 37 through 72. There were 2 36-card series, and it was only in Series 2 that they had the printing issues.
Interesting. And then actually, I think you had mentioned, Adam, that it's the red or the blue backgrounds. Is there any sort of pattern or rationale that has been like out there? Is it just random what color is what?
It's fairly random from my understanding, because there's not really like a lot of connection to the team color, if that makes sense. Like it's not trying to be like complementary to the way the team color is. And even like the colors of the jerseys, it's not like they have all of these different kind of layered processes to the colors. So like you look at most of them, and regardless if the team's yellow and green, there's not going to be any yellow and green on the jersey. It's going to be basically black, white, red, blue coloring across the whole thing. So it's just kind of, I guess, the colors that were made readily available, and it does mimic the baseball version as well.
Are they all team specific though? Like I know all the Celtics cards that I've seen all have red background, but that's because they use like blue on the jersey to say Celtics sometimes, like because they obviously didn't means.
Yeah, I never looked. I never looked to pay attention to whether the team sets were all one color. I don't believe they are, but I couldn't say with 100% certainty whether it is or isn't, because I do feel like I've seen people list them online in like team sets and there's parity to them, but I could be wrong on that. One thing that I do think is kind of cool I haven't said is there's 12 teams in the league at this time. Every team has 5 cards. So I thought that was kind of a neat thing. So there's no like parity in terms of the sense of one team has 3, one team has 7. It's 5, 5, 5 across the board. And you have those 12 team cards to complete the whole 72. And since we haven't talked or really shown the team card, I'll grab one here. I have one next to me. Or not team cards, excuse me, play cards. Speaking English. Yeah, play cards.
So for people that are listening, they literally look like a page out of a playbook, a very rudimentary playbook, but there's some X's and O's, and there's showing where you're cutting, where you're setting a screen. Some of them are shorter printed than others, so some can go for what odd amounts of money, given that they are just basically post-its with a play written on them, but they were specific to a team's like a team signature play.
This one in particular is part of the high number series, which makes them automatically more difficult, and it's a 7 grade, which is obviously pretty good. I don't know. I have truly no idea what this one is worth, but I would assume probably $300 to $400 for a card that has almost nothing to it, simply because of their uniqueness of them or rarity of them.
Do you think a lot of people, back in the day pulled those out and were like, oh, it doesn't got a player and I don't care about it, and just threw them away? I mean, that would be my thought on probably why not a lot are around.
I think, a good part of this set as a whole has probably been treated that way. I mean, in 1948, we keep talking about the NBA or pre-NBA period of professional basketball was just so irrelevant. I mean, this predates any national televisions, televised games. I looked up at one point, the attendance level at this time period was like 2,000 at max per game. So, I mean, there's just no real appeal to the sport as a whole. I'm sure people got these and they're like, oh, shoot, I thought they were baseball, and probably chucked half of them away anyway. So,
right.
So, like, I mean, there probably is something to be said for the play cards that were even less desirable than the guys on them that they didn't know already. But I think there's a good part of the set as a whole where it's just kind of, nobody really cares. And that was one of the things, too, we haven't got to the Mikan yet, but just looking at the overall population of these versus a lot of other vintage sets, the Mikan, I think, is the most derivative of like the quantity that's out there, because nobody really has one raw at this day and age. But the number I had was the total pop across, it was what Card Ladder gave me data for, PSA, SGC, BGS, and CGC was 590 total copies. So then you think about that in comparison to, like, obviously modern things, it's nothing. I mean, Zion Williamson Prism rookies have a bajillion of them. But you look at that and you compare it to like other vintage cards of that era, and it's a fraction of pretty much almost everything available to that point. And it's by far the most popular card that carries the weight of this set by at least a large margin. So it's kind of interesting to see.
I'm going to add a few things here, Adam. Sorry, Ryan. I just want to carry off of what you're asking with the play cards, but I also want to, Adam, if you want to grab one of your cards, because I'm going to ask you to look at the back of the card, right? So obviously nobody can see the back of the card, but I do want to bring up, when we think about some of these vintage cards, Ryan, one of the things I think of when I see the play cards is that was a way to get to know the teams if you weren't in the area. So if you were a basketball fan, and college basketball is picking up speed at that point, regional basketball, so to know what the Boston team was running for their plays as you're getting these players, I think it was more of there's a marketing piece to it. And we think of like what the All-Star games in MLB used to mean for people, of getting exposure to teams that you couldn't see or get on your radio call. So that's where I always thought the team-specific plays come from. And even on the back of my Andy Phillips here, it's, it gives his background. So he's from the University of Illinois. It gives a quote from him, some All-American stuff. It's the pro cards in these days really highlighted a lot of the college information, because that's really where the money was. The championship levels at the college were different and everything, but a lot of the focus and exposure came from college basketball. And then in red font at the bottom, it describes in detail the uniform. So again, these are basically grayscale cards. So it tells us rich-looking shirt in gold with scantily hip-padded trunks that are blue, edged in contrasting colors, given waistline measurements when ordering. So part of this is also you could order, but it gives you like the details of like what you could like expect to see on a player or in a uniform. I don't know. I think the cards back then were, again, they're coming from a candy company, but the play cards I think were an attempt to expose people across regions to what the game of basketball might have looked like. And I wouldn't have been surprised if they were actually pretty appreciated back then.
Yeah, that's probably a pretty good point, because like you said, I mean, with everybody being so kind of ignorant to the sport as a whole, that's a good way to kind of teach people. And I was curious about the Phillip in particular, so I pulled mine out here. It does explain the uniform, which is interesting, but it also has a wrapper redemption. I don't know if you noticed that at the bottom. That's what all the ones I've seen on the backs have been showing some kind of branding or explaining the sport in some sense, but also trying to get you to send in wrappers and money to get the item that they're mentioning. So like some of them have like a ring on them. Some of them have an actual basketball. That one in particular is the outfit. So it's just kind of funny that like it's like a twofold thing. They're showing you what they use, but also allowing you to send in and try to get one for yourself. But I was just curious if Philip was like an outlier and it actually just mentioned his outfit rather than that send-in process. I do see there was a comment in the the comment section, I guess, there about the play cards. They are split up completely apart between the two. I believe it's 6 and 6, unless I'm mistaken. But they're definitely in both high and low numbered sets. The low number ones are a fraction, just like most of the cards. Obviously, there's some bigger names that make some value in that sense, but similar players from both sets are going to be much more expensive in Series 2. And since you showed the backs and described those on the players, I did have the back of a play here. Just kind of runs down the gist of the play itself. Nothing real special, none of the send-ins, nothing like that, but just kind of a learning lesson, if you will.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, again, for those that are listening, what Adam's showing is really cool. It's highlighted with red text at the top. It says the screenplay, and then it just gives a narrative description of what that specific screenplay is as you're looking at the front of the card. And Adam, you were spot on. They were evenly distributed. I'm looking at the checklist right now, completely evenly distributed between the two series.
Yeah, I thought they were. And then the other thing too, I tried to grab two play cards that were kind of recognizable. It's kind of funny, like knowing obviously basketball well enough to know what we look at and see today. Many of the play cards were kind of hard to diagnose because they were just so raw. You can't really see a breakdown of multiple steps. It's kind of hard to piece together. But like this is an out of bounds play, so it's just basically a misdirection and cutting into the paint. And you can also see too, kind of the circle at the top being so much more narrow as it goes in because this is pre-Mikan rule in 51, where the lane splits from 6 to 12 feet. So I mean, just so many aspects of the game that we know today just don't exist at this point, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I really appreciate your guys' insight on the play cards because I've seen those before and I kind of thought, why are these being distributed to people to collect? It just didn't make sense to me, but that really makes a lot of sense. The idea of giving one play for each team or the representative play of each team so that fans can learn what teams are running during the game. That's really cool. I had no idea. That makes a lot more appealing to me based on what I had known in the past. I wanted to say something I thought was really cool too about the backs of the cards is because I mean, obviously, Adam, like you mentioned, all the history of the game at the time and stuff like that is just so cool because I feel like there's something really interesting about every player that's there. I remember I was like looking at Bud Palmer, I think John Palmer, he was on the Knicks, and like his card, I think it mentioned he was the inventor of the jump shot. And it's like, that's really cool that you can, that you have cards of these players that might be their only card and they have such significant roles in the development of the game, even the most basic things like a jump shot or a layup or something like that. So there's a lot of education to be had on the backs of those cards.
Absolutely, I would agree. And I'd have to look at the back of the Bud Palmer to see exactly what the wording is on that because I know a lot of the kind of the true history of the jump shot goes back to a player named Kenny Sailors, who happens to be in the set as well. I had that one pulled out. I'd have to look at the Palmer to see the way they verbiage the jump shot aspect. But this is one that they give a lot of the credit to the history of the jump shot too. Another one that gets kind of that same lineage I pulled out, Joe Folks was another one of the kind of set shooters of the time. You can almost see him going up for a shot there, having the ball ready in front of him there. Those are two guys that a lot of times get a lot of notoriety for the shooting form of the day.
Speaking of shooting form, did anybody that grew up playing basketball, anybody have a coach that make you do the Mikan drill?
I don't think so.
Can't recall ever doing it.
It's painful. It's literally when Adam mentioned the 3 foot lane back in the day, it made me think of it where you basically have to stay in what I think we would consider the dunker spot at this point. And in one fluid motion, you put a layup in with either your right or left hand, catch the ball as it's going through the rim, go to the other side, put it up, catch it as it's going through the rim, and you keep switching side to side, just working on fundamental rebound. It's one of the it's a classic drill, but I had a coach that in like YMCA ball that used to just make any of us that wanted to play down low do it for what felt like hours on end. It was probably 10 minutes at a time. But Adam, I know you're collecting the set. You want to give us a little insight into how the set progress is going, how it is finding these cards out there? Yeah, what's up with the set chase?
So I'm at 61 of the 72.
Oh wow, I didn't realize you were that far.
Yeah, I've got everything from the first series done except for card number 1. It's not that it's harder to find really. the first card of the series, just for me being the first card in the set, I just want it to look better than kind of average, I guess. So all the ones I keep seeing are kind of lower grade, kind of off-centered, rougher copies, and I'd rather have one a little nicer. But other than that, I have the full first series, and I just have, what's that make it, 10 high series cards left. I have all the plays, just a few more players. Jim Pollard, and I think is probably the biggest name I need. He's probably the second biggest card in the set. It's, again, though, not very expensive compared to the Mikan. The Mikan is probably 50% maybe of the entirety of the 72 card set in itself. So I mean, it's nothing too crazy, but
That player, Jim Pollard, is who you would say is like the number two in terms of popularity and value behind Mikan.
yeah, I would say so. Jim Pollard has got to be probably number two. Like I just showed a couple there. Joe Folks is up there, but he's still a lower price card, so he's not super expensive. Like I would assume this is a 5, and he's one of the bigger names in the set. I would think he's probably somewhere in the vicinity of, I don't know, a couple $100 maybe. Like, it's definitely not anything too crazy expensive. Another couple here I had pulled out, bigger names in the Hall of Fame: Bob Davies and Arnie Rison. Like these are two bigger cards in the set, and still like the Rison might be, I don't know, $300 or $400, and the Davies, like this is a 7, so it's probably expensive. I don't know exactly, but you could get like a 4 or 5 for probably $100 to $200, I would guess. So I mean, there's definitely some history to be had without spending crazy money. And I know I kind of hinted at it last week since we're talking about the cards. The Mikan I have pulled out here somewhere, but the Mikan's obviously the biggest card in the set. Kind of a backstory on this one. I've had a few of these. I had, I think, the Folks and the Davies for a while, maybe 5-6 years, something, 3-4-5 years, whatever it is. And this card I had come up to me in conversation at a card show I was set up at, and it was a guy I've done deals with in the past, and he had a ridiculous price on it based off the eye appeal of it, which I appreciate. The card looks great for the grade, but he came up and was discussing how everybody kept wanting it for less money, and somebody offered him on eBay like $6,500, I want to say, for it, and he didn't want to pay fees and deal with eBay on it, and for some reason asked me if I would give him $6,500 worth of smaller cards for the Mikan. I didn't even start the set chase or anything like that. I had completed 61 and 57 and always wanted to do that, but the Mikan was kind of out of reach. But he took a stack of cards from me that added up to about $6,500 and traded this to me a few years ago, and obviously I'm very happy with it. The card's a lot harder to find than selling, than the kind of the compilation of 20 cards are, whatever it was, for the price of that. So I was very happy with it, but that's kind of what got me off to the races with the set, was getting that, because it wasn't something I would probably go and drop $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 for in any given moment, but getting it in trade like that was nice.
That's the best, man. I think when you can trade into something big like that, that's usually how I position like myself to get like a bigger card of, even, say like Gary Harris, that logo man.
Sure.
I don't want to drop hundreds of dollars normally, but if you can trade into it, it's really cool. So the Bob Davies, I was just going to throw in. That's one of the few that I have two. That's one of mine. And then I have the William Holtzman. I think they're both Hall of Famers, if I'm not mistaken. You'd probably know Adam.
They are. Red's in the Hall of Fame as a coach. He won 2 championships with the Knicks.
Yeah, Red Holtzman. Yep. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But yeah, just for collection's sake, I'm probably not the most knowledgeable on the set as you, but I feel like owning 1 or 2 cards from every basketball set, given there's not so many sets as there is in like baseball, where you have to go back, and grab, you'd be collecting forever trying to get something from every set. It's kind of cool just to have like a card from 48 Bowman set. And we were even talking about like the Murad sets before they had professional basketball leagues, and they were like college cards. I picked up one of those at one point just to kind of have that part of history. So that's my appeal in the set.
Yeah, I would agree with you. That's a big part to me, is just having something of it. I've actually like to get one of those Murad cards. I don't have one. That would be cool. And I also like the 33 Sporting Kings, I want to say.
That's the one set I haven't grabbed yet, because if you try to go after one of those, I don't know, 7-8 years ago, you could probably get one for under 100, probably like closer to $50. Nowadays, they seem to go for a ton. I think they have like I don't know if do they have Hall of Famers in that? I know there's Joe Lopkick. From Lopkick, yeah, on the Celtics.
Yeah.
I seen even a rough copy, 2 years ago, and I was kind of chasing them go for like $200. I'm like, yeah, I'll wait a couple years on that one. But yeah, and I think there was only maybe 4 to 5 players in that one, wasn't there? Something pretty, because it was like across several different sports that they had those
Yeah.
gaudy ones.
Yeah. Yeah, they're very cool cards. I like them. It's just I have not picked one up. I think the two big ones are Lapchick and Nat Holman, I believe, is the other in this set. They're the two big. They're the two big options.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm glad you guys touched on the back of the cards, because that's actually was going to be my question. I think they're cool, and I didn't personally. I just kind of grabbed these cards. I read the backs. I didn't even know it was a candy company that did these, which is kind of interesting because a lot of this time period would have been probably cigarette cards, or maybe we're getting out of maybe the cigarette cards phase was earlier than that. We're getting into just having these in candy companies, which eventually turned into gum,
Well, and Tops was a confections company before cards too, right? Didn't Tops
Mhm.
start as a confection company, and then they bought out Bowman at one point? But I think that's the
Yeah.
lineage of everything.
Yeah, I mean they ran concurrent with Bowman for fighting each other, like the war between baseball and the two of them for the 50s for a while.
Yeah.
And I want to say it's 56 they buy Bowman, and then
Yep.
it's off to the races of just them by themselves. A couple other things I pulled out here on the topic, obviously, of 48 Bowman. This was one that I actually discussed, I think, with somebody in the chat here, Mark, earlier today. But the 96 Top Stars reprint in the normal card size, I'll put the regular rookie next to it. But it's a cool card. Pack pulled his first, to my knowledge. Pack pulled autograph. The first for many people. Really cool set. I think it's 15 cards maybe. Something like that. A lot of cool names. Really like those. And one other thing, kind of fun fact, if you will, I was going to pull out was there is one player that you can actually find in all three of the major basketball sets, 48, 57, and 61. There's only like 3 or 4 players in even 48 and 57, but one player's in all three. I pulled out those from my sets. It's Carl Braun. So he's in the 48 here with the Knicks. Still with the Knicks in 57, so I don't drop it. And then eventually with the Celtics in 61. As you can see, I did my sets a little differently. 57 and 48 are both PSA, but I like the pop of the color. And kind of also back to what we talked about with just kind of the availability, trading into things. Card Shop in Indy had a bunch of these Indy card exchange. And he's a really good guy, and I traded a couple bigger baseball vintage cards to get a bunch of the set started in SGC, and I just really liked the way they looked and stuck with it. But I thought that was kind of cool. There's such a gap, I guess. There's so little cards over that period of time, but one player to kind of encompass all three. That would be, in my opinion, a cool kind of set chase to kind of go what you were saying about getting something of the history. There's one player who is in the Hall of Fame that you can chase across all three and kind of get just a piece of the history from all years, which I think is pretty cool.
At some point, we'll have to do a dive into the Flair set, only for selfish reasons. That's a set that I've never been a huge fan of, and I appreciate everything about it, but I don't like the Bowman and the Top set. I just happen to have read up more on. I know very, very little about the Flair company, the Flair set. So at some point, I'll have to just sit back and get educated on that set, because the in-game action shots, I think, are an underrated aspect of that time period to get those on cards. But that's a fun set for sure. We'll have to. And I agree with you, Adam. That looks great in the SGC. Yeah, I've had a few of the Flair cards in the SGC, tuxedos, or even the old school SGC slabs, and they really do look great.
I think so. And like I said, I think it's cool that you can get all three of the original sets all with the same player and kind of have some uniformity to it. So I think that was neat. But
Yeah, that's cool.
the SGC ones I think look great. I'm not necessarily a graded fan. I don't think really any of us are. We don't really collect graded cards. I think, like Steve, I crack almost everything modern out. But for vintage cards, especially buying predominantly online, it gives you a little bit of a sense of clarity with what you're buying, and at least a kind of a ruling as to a ballpark. If it's a 7, it's not going to have a crease in it, things like that.
It was not hard to print these back in the day, so it's not hard to print them today, right? So there is, at some point we'll do the 57 set as well. Intentionally, there's a million fake Russells because people were printing them, even reprinting them just to get them signed. They thought it wasn't even scandalous. They were just printing them thinking they were postcards, but now they're floating around in every showcase, at least in the Northeast. So, I agree. I'm not a big graded fan either, and I had a few higher grade Bowman cards that I bought impulsively, and I sold them off when the market spiked. But there is a safety piece, and my vintage stuff will probably be the one part of my collection that eventually goes to my kids. So, hopefully I live for a long, long time, but another 40, 50 years from now, having that stuff slabbed so people know exactly what it is going to be helpful. So, which then people say, well, having the Luka Doncic Prism slabbed 40, 50 years, it's not the same, people. That information is well documented. Everyone knows what it is. It's all online. There was nobody typing in the forums when Andy Phillips was playing for the Celtics.
Like, in my opinion, the reason grading existed, and came out as something that we'd want to do ourselves is because there's so much variation between a vintage 48 card, because you can have all kinds of different grades on it. Whereas the mono cards, most of the time, even back in the 90s, people are pulling them out and putting them right into some kind of protection, right? But the cards back in the day, kids would grab them, kids would play with them, put them in their bike spokes, whatever they might do. So you just have this very wide range to go off of. So you got a 1 to 10 scales, a true 1 to 10 scales. But nowadays it's like it's a 9 or a 10 or it's nothing, If you get an 8, it's worth less than the Brawl, right?
Yeah, the quality. I don't know. I know, Adam, Ryan, you have. Joey, have you ever held in your hand like a raw vintage card?
Yeah, I think so.
It's an unbelievably soft cardboard, and that's not even just with aging. It's not even a real card stock. It's a very soft cardboard. So, just the damage, the coloration, the printing quality. There's a few sets that are known for, 57 Tops being one of them, the background being all snowed out and stuff. So it was just a different. They were printing these as promotional materials. They weren't printing them as collectibles, or I hate the term that, like, I'm going to use it facetiously, like alternative assets or anything like that, right? Then they weren't meant to be
Right.
autographed and relics. It was just a different atmosphere, so you can't compare across.
I think having some raw ones, because half of I'm going after a 61 set. I've been going after it for 10 years. So it's slow, but surely. But I bought a bunch of raw ones from a guy in Blowout back in the day, just because I was getting started on the set, and I kind of put a feeler out there, and he's like, I got a bunch of low grade raw. I'm like, perfect. That's great for me. And I've kept them raw. I even have the Bill Russell. It's still raw. But it's like, yeah, when you get them and you kind of feel them, you're right, Steve. It takes you back to like, okay, these were not meant to be collectibles. These were meant to be pulled out, kids to, trade them around with their friends and then throw them out.
You ever hear an old school baseball guy say you can tell if it's an authentic vintage card by the smell? And I know when they say that, I know exactly what they're talking about.
Yeah, I would recommend that if anybody gets a chance to just grab them, and yeah, it seems weird, but yeah, give them a quick smeller, just the feel of it. It's just it's different, and
yeah.
I say that with the modern cards too. It feels different to have that raw card. Because when you encapsulate it, you put it up on this weird pedestal, like it's your investment or whatever. Whereas you just have the card raw, it feels more like you're collecting it. That's why I'm a big fan of throwing stuff in a binder. I can still take it out. I can still like feel the card, and you can go, even with like a flawless card, this is just cardboard. This is not some, grand gold slab or something like that. It's just a different type of reaction that you get from holding them. So.
And I know we were talking about 48 Bowman, but as we're talking about grading and vintage stuff, I'll give a shout out to Mark, who is in the chat. He was messaging me the other day about he wants to start going after the 57 top set, and we were talking about raw versus graded, and the collector in me. So when I bought my Bill Russell, and I paid $18.75 for it. It's a PSA 6. I picked the copy because it looked great, and at the time it was a little bit less than a PSA 5 copy, and I was looking for a PSA 5, but the fact that I could get a 6 that looked great, I knew that was a smart decision. Then I had a goal of collecting all of the Hall of Famers that ever played for the Celtics. Started with all of the retired jersey numbers, went to all the Hall of Famers, whatever. I ended up having like almost 10% of the 57 set. But because I need things so uniform, I then felt stuck in collecting all graded copies for the 57 set. But I was never going to buy a raw Bill Russell rookie. So in retrospect, had I had the mentality that I had now, I probably would have bought the Tommy Heinsohn, the Kuzi, the Russell, the ones that I cared about, and probably just got reprints of that Russell rookie and put in my binder and then had the graded copy set aside somewhere. Like I probably would have done it raw. I would feel more confident going to shows. It would have been less expensive, but there's just some cards like there's no way you could. I don't think, and I'm sure there's people that know more. I would never buy a Mike and rookie. I would never buy some of the high end mantles or Hank Aaron's raw. There's just too much that can go with them as far as recoloring and stuff that I just don't know about, pressing and all that stuff. And yes, I could have a graded copy that's been pressed. I understand that, but there's something about that assurance when you're buying a card that, hey, at least I know that I have what I actually think I have. So it's really tough with the vintage stuff because we just weren't there experiencing it. Whereas the 2010 stuff, we've lived through it, or we can look at a refractor and know where it came from, how it came to be. It's a very different experience when you're buying vintage cards.
One of the things I was going to point out to that point there is when I was putting these sets together, I've obviously done the 57 and the 61 and finishing this one. You'll find them at shows sometimes and people will sell you singles. And it's like, I could grade these, but I would say 99% of the time I've ever looked at those, they have graded value at the absolute best case scenario plus baked into their price every single time. So it's like you find a nice, I don't know, 57 Heinsohn, and you're like, man, this is actually pretty sharp for a raw card. I do the smell test. I think it's real. And you look at it, and then you go online, and it's like you want the price of a PSA 7. Like, this is 2025. This card's been out for 75, whatever, 70 years. The odds of this being a 7, no matter how ignorant I think it looks great, it's not probably a 7. And then I have to pay, I don't know, what PSA charge to grade a 7 of that card? $100? So it's like, there's no reward for me. It's all risk, no reward, and they get all the money. And then come to find out it's got a hairline crease I missed in the back and it grades a 4, or it's trimmed, or whatever else it may be. There's the raw game in vintage anymore is a joke. There's no good value, in my opinion, to be found anymore.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, when I was getting that 61 set, the more common players, they're not super desirable. Not many people are probably chasing it. A couple of us old guys are going after it or whatever. But good point. I was going to ask you too, Adam. Your 48 Bowman set, is it all one company that you have slabs with? Is it all PSA?
Yeah, the kind of OCD in me has me wanting to do that. Now, I'll be honest, I've been recently keep on looking at these 61s I have, although I prefer them in the SGC slabs. Part of me wants to build a second set in PSA just so I have all of them PSA graded. As ignorant as that sounds, it's so stupid. But I have so many things I could put my time and energy and money into, but I don't know. I keep looking at these and I think they look better like this, but I think these other ones look better like this. I prefer their versions, and I want to make one complete master set, if you will, of all three.
Yeah, in your irrational sports card collecting mind, you've somehow made these 3 sets so that they're one own entity. And so now that you have SGC standing alone, you've already connected them as far as the players that are in all 3 sets. You've got the Bowman before the NBA, you've got the original NBA with the tops, and you've got Flair, so you've got a lot of heritage. And you have now decided that they're all just the same set. They're a continuation of the same set in your collection now. So I no one else other than us that do this for a hobby would understand your rationale, but it makes complete sense to me.
I get it, man. I definitely get it. There's an OCD side to collecting anything.
Yeah.
And, I think if you got more than just a single box of high-end cards or whatever you're going after, if you're actually collecting sets and collecting team sets like I do, you all want it to be uniform. So that's why I get, gold prisms in and crack them out and put them in a binder, because I couldn't have that soul gold prism sitting in a box in that empty space in the binder,
For quite a while, I was chasing the 53 Bowman baseball set. I'm still trying to do that. It's kind of like your 61 Fleer, where it's like, I want to finish this one day. It's not anywhere close to the front of my mind. But
Yeah.
for years, I only bought PSA 5s, specifically 5s. I wouldn't buy 6s, 7s. I'd buy 5s. So it was like this stupid thing where I was like, I'm going to have a full 5 set. And then, I don't know, maybe a year or two ago, I saw at a show a 7 for like the price of a 5.5 or 6. And I'm like, that's a pretty good deal. Why the hell am I not just buying whatever's in front of me that looks nice, doesn't have creases or whatever else it may be? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to be done being an idiot and just start buying whatever I find. And I picked up several that are 6s and 7s since then, and 5.5s probably. But yeah, just funny how silly we can make rules for ourselves that have absolutely no meaning to anyone else and really shouldn't have meaning to us. But it's like you look at something and you're like, well, that's kind of cool. I've never seen a full grade set that's all PSA 5s. I'll do that. And it's like, well, you haven't seen it because nobody else is stupid. So what are you doing?
The guys that run PSA 1 to PSA 10.
That's a weird one for me because one sell for so much money. It makes no sense.
It's a hard one to do because you end up paying more for the PSA 1 because you can't find it, and you might as well just ding one up yourself and send it in.
Right, yeah. And even with the vintage, that's one thing for me. Like some of the cards, you look at like a Russell, for example, a PSA 1, like the barrier to entry is, I don't know, a couple grand. But then you can buy a 3 for $3,000. It's like, well, for 50% more, I get three grades, or a 3 versus a 1, however you want to word that. And it's just so funny. Then you start seeing like this compound, and eventually it gets to the point where it's like, well, an 8 is $200,000. Okay, yeah, we got way too far from center. Let's work our way back and like figure out where the grade makes sense. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, hey, I have to have the card, so I'm going to buy the cheapest possible one. Sometimes that one doesn't make sense because it's like creased and folded in half and looks terrible, but it's cost $1,000 less than one that looks super presentable. It's just funny how things work like that. Like some people just have to have one and they don't care what it is, just get the cheapest one. And I'm over here like doing the math. Like to me, this Mikan, for example, is a 3. It's one of the lower graded cards I own, but it looks great. I don't care. It doesn't have any creases. Has good color, centering. Cool. Perfect for me. If it was maybe more pointy on the corners and it was a 6 or a 7, it'd be way too expensive. I would have never got it in the first place.
And Adam, this is a 5 from the same set, same color background. And obviously this is digital cheap. I've got a outdated computer, but eye appeal. I haven't seen your mic in person, but I bet if we put these side by side, the back corners on this are not great. The front corners have a little shape to them. I know you guys are a little rounded, but they're also dinged up. You know what I mean? So I think if we were to put, I think the colors are rich on both of ours, right? Our Bowmans.
Yeah.
My centering is probably not as good as yours. Yours is pretty well centered. So to your point, and true vintage people, the guys that would come in here and school us in knowledge would talk about the different eye appeal pieces. And I know I prefer, so like when I buy my vintage cards, I'm more about color saturation, where Adam's a little bit more about centering and that well-balanced look. So each of us have our own different eye appeal things, but to your point, Adam, that the second you showed me that, and you showed me some, high def pictures, I didn't care what the grade was. It looks as presentable as a PSA 5, and I'm not saying that just to brown nose up to you. It's a very clean copy.
I agree. I think that's really what kind of separates vintage than everything else too, is most things that you collect, like if you're going after a patch, it's just like most people aren't going to pay an absurd premium for a card out of 25 with 2 colors rather than 3. Maybe a little bit. When you get into the vintage stuff, you have such nuance. I think I may have mentioned it in the kind of the teaser we talked about last week. An authentic of this just sold, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, now maybe 3 weeks ago, for more than a PSA 4 did. Authentic altered, that looked pretty similar to mine, probably a little sharper on the corners because they were trimmed or whatever it was, but similar color and centering, sold for more than a completely off-centered, butchered-looking 4. And it's like, at some point, you don't want to have the card that has no border on one side, no matter how numerically graded it is. You want one that's presentable. So there's a huge swing with this kind of stuff, rather than modern, I think, that just has some nuance to it that most people would kind of miss if they were just strictly looking at a 3 is a 3 and a 3 is worth this. Just there's some interesting points to it.
Absolutely.
Good point. We're up in the hour. Any other thoughts, comments, things to throw out into the metaverse for next week? Anything we want to close out with?
I think my one question I was going to ask is if there's somebody that does want, because I don't know, for me at least, like the only person I recognize is the Mikan in the 48 Bowman. And you showed the I think you said 96, that auto. Mm-hmm. Which one is going to run you more? Like what's going to cost you more, the rookie or that auto?
Oh, the rookie by far.
even a low grade or altered rookie?
Yeah, like the cheapest if you had one that was like you just took it in your hand and crumbled it and it had no edges, you're probably still spending, I don't know, $2,500, $3,000.
Wow.
And then you can get that autograph for probably, I mean, I've had that for a while, $300 maybe, $250. I mean, the price is absolutely nowhere comparable. Just while we're on the way out here, I'll be able to find it very quickly. Like his best modern card is not even close to that. Let me find it. Like this is by far, in my opinion anyway, his best modern card.
So I'll just say while he's looking for it. So if you wanted to right now, Joe, and I don't even know if it's a good price, you could go on and get the Topps rookie reprint auto for $450 on eBay.
Nice.
Right now, you could hit the bin.
I'm like frozen on my screen or something.
Yeah, there you are. You definitely lagged out for a minute.
Lagged out for a bit.
Sorry, my bad, guys. But like this is by far his best modern card, and it's still probably less than the absolute worst copy you could possibly find of a rookie. Mr. Basketball inscription number to 100.
Yeah, those are neat.
Interesting, and I mean this is probably a conversation for another time, but it's a wild comparison, and the fact that you get an autograph on that rookie, it's a reprint, but for literally a fraction of the price is crazy.
No, I agree. Yeah, it's a super good value. I think it's a card that I think most people should have if they're basketball collectors. And Mark in the chat, we've talked about it earlier today. It's one that I need to put the whole set together. There's some really cool cards in there. A bunch of rookie reprints. I'm sure Steve and I have talked about it before. The 69 Sam Jones to me is one of my favorites. He doesn't have a 69 Topps card. He never had a Topps card in general. Topps card in general. So it's just kind of a cool card. It's the tall boys shrunk down to normal card size, like rookie reprint that never happened, cards that never were kind of thing. It's a cool card.
Great set. And I think only it's not that big, right? 15 autos or so?
I'm going to say it's 15. That's what my gut tells me, but I absolutely can't remember with certainty. But there's like Archibald, Gervin, Barry, all those guys.
That's one of those big what ifs because those cards were like, that's a set I've always looked at and just those were those cards. I'm like, oh, I'll grab one of those eventually. I'll grab the Mikan eventually, and they're not super expensive, but back in 2015 when I was looking at them and thinking about, I probably could have got a Mikan for I don't even want to sound like an idiot quoting myself, but it wasn't even $300. It was even less than that.
I think I bought mine maybe 6 years ago was when I was putting together all of the Hall of Famers and like the NBA 50 before the 75 set even happened. I want to say I bought it from Lakers Forum Gold, if you all know him.
Yeah.
Great guy, Mike. Mm-hmm. I think I bought it from him for like $100.
Yeah, I was about to say $80 is what I probably was looking at them for back in the day. So
yeah, and I've had a few of them over the years because like I kept on being curious about just adding more of them for whatever reason. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know why I did this, and I ended up moving it eventually, but it's a great card. I think that's one, if you have any interest at all in 48 Bowman or any interest in basketball of this era, George Mikan's obviously the guy, and that's a great barrier to entry that isn't very expensive for most people.
Yep. All right, so next week we will see Joey reveal his mail day of a 48 Bowman Rochester Royal. I think that's what we're looking at here in the chat. Did Joey get called out?
I'm going for Mikan, okay?
All right, I like that even better.
Yeah, well, you're not allowed to come back till you have either the rookie reprint or the actual rookie, one or the other.
Okay, perfect. I'll see you guys in a year or so. All right. Well, yeah, thank you for everyone for hanging out. I know for one, I learned a ton today, and from basketball history to card history to everything, I am really glad we got a chance to delve into 48 Bowman, and hope that everyone else learned a lot. Thanks for hanging out. We will see you guys all next week. Hope you have a great week, and we'll see you again next Thursday. Excuse me. I really shouldn't be the one doing this week.
Be well, everybody.
Next Thursday at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. See you guys.
Go get some tea, buddy.
Yeah, seriously.
Thanks, everyone.